For a man who could buy anything, Elon Musk sure gets owned a lot. I have told that joke in my Discord and on Blue Sky. I'm doing it now. It's a very good goof. Thank you very much.
I mean, there are clearly some things that he can't buy. I think it's
Dignity.
Always fun to think about the list. Dignity.
Respect.
Yep.
A wife that can stand to stay with him for more than a few months.
The love of his daughter.
Yep.
Or any of his other kids.
Yep. The ability to be good at video games, he can't buy that.
The ability
he has to buy people
play
playing them
video
for him
games,
so he can pretend them.
The ability to come off better than Ubisoft. That
Remarkable.
That is
Remarkable.
impressive. I was thinking about that situation, which, by the way, I'm not one to compliment Ubisoft very often, and I wouldn't compliment their management in any way other than to say the strategy of allowing Ubisoft's community management to rip the piss out of nerdses, specifically their thought leaders. Thought doing a lot of work there is pretty much the only good idea that you could have. See, they must have backtracked on the whole don't mention them, don't just ignore them, because treating them fearfully or taking them seriously are the two things they need. They need to be taken seriously. It's why they hated the whole weird thing when, they were being called weird. That Grumble Ticklish and Elon, both of them getting made fun of by the Assassin's Creed community management team is the smartest play that could be done. These people, it's why any videos I do tackling nerdses now, I don't even bother making arguments. I might add a reminder at the end as to what these people actually want. But when it comes to dealing with them, I have, for the past, I want to say 2 years now, just gone with abject mockery. Because they're bullies, and very frail ones, and they cannot handle being bullied back. They have no defense for it, because they need to be taken seriously.
Like last week we were talking about the Ubisoft efforts to protect their employees from online abuse relating to the release of this Assassin's Creed game. And this sort of use of the Assassin's Creed Twitter account to go after these guys kind of casts some of my criticisms in a slightly different light. It is one thing to tell your employees not to talk about their involvement in the project out of concern for their safety, and it's another to do so when you know that you will probably be actively aggressive towards the people who will be targeting them. It's still a problem, it's still a criticism, but I at least could understand it a little more now.
I'd have felt a little better the times I've been on projects told, or you're not allowed to talk about being on the project in case they're mean to you, if they'd also stuck their neck out to go, oh no, we'll be mean to them on your behalf, don't you worry about it.
Yeah.
I feel like, okay.
Yeah. It's the best thing to do. It is why they used to constantly say, debate me. It's why debate me, bro, is a word for some of these people. The ones that at least try and be more respectable or appear more respectable. Their tactic was always debate me. And it's not because they want to debate, it's because they want to clown on you. They want to make you a figure of ridicule.
They want you to debate because by accepting the debate, you accept that their position is worthy of consideration. Yes. You're taking them seriously.
And that's something you've always got to be careful of with a lot of what they want. It's why I will never debate a lot of the stuff that's personally important, like trans rights and stuff, because as soon as you start debating it, you are saying it's okay to debate somebody's human rights. And it doesn't matter what type of person that is. As soon as you've decided one group's human rights are up for debate, you've decided all human rights are up for debate. Something should not be debated, and the right to live peacefully on your own terms is not a debate point. So yeah, that is to say, hats off to whoever's running the Assassin's Creed accounts, clowning on Elon, who only has $1 billion. Well, not a billion, billions. He's only got $1 billion. That was the thing I was thinking about today. It is strange, that man, it feels strange to say he only has billions of dollars, because obviously that makes you God in the socioeconomic system we have. He's got more money in the world than everyone else. Putting only as a qualifier in there seems strange, but he has nothing else. He only has billions of dollars. You take those away, he's got no talent, no skill, no good ideas of his own. The accomplishments in his name are just that, in his name. He only has billions of dollars.
And he doesn't have the billions of dollars.
Well,
the billions
yeah.
of dollars are all tied up in Tesla stocks. And his ownership
those
of
are not
X.
as valuable as they once were as well.
Well, and that's why this Tesla takedown thing is, I think, so... Because it's the way that people can actually hurt him. And significantly hurt him. If the stock value of Tesla continues to tank, they are in trouble. And they have the way that these very rich people live their lives is that they have these assets that are worth billions of dollars. They don't have the billions of dollars, but they take out loans against the billions of dollars that they have in order to finance their lives and the other things that they want to do. And they will come calling for that debt when the value drops so low that they can't back up the loans anymore.
Yeah. The number of photos I've been seeing of people trying to put stickers on their Teslas going, I bought it before I knew he was bad, is like, it is becoming a bit of a fucking you do not want to be associated with symbol having a Tesla at this point.
Well, it's nice. It's nice that there's still a shred of stigma attached to having some sort of association with a Nazi.
Yeah.
Like, and sorry, listeners, for starting off as we have. I'm hoping
It's
that the
unusual
sort of
for us.
positive
we've
aspect
avoided...
we're taking is
Yeah.
It was just a really good joke, and it that I had, and that it has to naturally lead into it. Because honestly, it's good seeing Elon mocked like that. Which again, saying that he has nothing outside the billions of dollars, he doesn't even have a win online to his name. Everyone gets at least one time where they've successfully dunked on someone. He doesn't even have that. And he owns a social media site that is predicated on dunks. And he still can't get a win. What a twerp. If not for the fact that he's the man least deserving of pity on earth, he'd be the most pitiful man on earth.
So, it's Podquisition. We talk about video games here sometimes. I'm gonna jump in and talk about one first. I'm gonna do the thing where I start by jumping in on one, because it's that roughly once a year where I have to briefly talk about something positive a Ubisoft game did. And I do this in the context of, I generally don't talk about Ubisoft games, as is the case of most of us here on this show, because of all the abuse shit.
Yeah, I'll discuss the company's behaviour as it pertains to my work, but I personally, and it's just me and the Jimquisition series, I will never discuss their games as products or as entertainment experiences until there is any shred of accountability.
I have no interest in doing so about the game here. I am not going to talk at all about the game that is Assassin's Creed Shadows, but I want to talk about one accessibility thing as someone that is a thing I pay attention to in games that I am really happy about, as it is something I've been shouting about for 4.5 years now, and I just want to have an opportunity to be a little I have to acknowledge you did a good here. I've talked about this several times on this show. Back in late 2020, I made a video about the fact that Marvel's Avengers, for all the problems that game has, I love a particular scene in it, where Kamala Khan and Bruce Banner are sat in a car, and it is a scene entirely of non-verbal subtext of these two characters being annoyed at each other. And the scene by default, had subtitles explaining the non-verbal subtext of what was happening. Explaining Kamala is slurping this drink deliberately to annoy Bruce. Bruce is rolling his eyes back in frustration. And as someone in the accessibility space who has been, like, trying to push for new things to be tried, I've pointed at that scene for years and gone, I really think there is value to having something explicitly in video games that is an option to make non-verbal aspects of things that are meant to be understood about the emotional state of characters explicit. And Assassin's Creed Shadows, I want to give its little moment of credit here, has a setting I have never seen offered before that is a subtitle toggle called Emotions.
David Cage just came.
In its case, what it does is it is just a simple toggle that puts a one-word bracketed emotion next to the speaker name in subtitles. So that for a given line of dialogue, this is the emotion with which they are saying that line of dialogue. And this is great for a fuck ton of different groups of disabled users, be it people who are deaf and aren't going to hear the tone of a voice acting delivery, people who have to play with the sound off because they got kids or whatever, people who are playing the game and the voice acting is not in their native language and therefore may not pick up tone of voice, or people like me. I'm autistic. I struggle as hell with tone of voice. I misinterpret tone of voice all the time. Having just a little one-word toggle I can turn on that tells me for sure that's what I was supposed to take from the tone of that sentence. Fucking wonderful. I am so glad to see it tried, if for no other reason than, like, 4 years into asking for this as a feature, I can point at a big budget game doing it, and, like, deliberately doing it, unlike Marvel's Avengers that just, like, kinda sort of did it not as, like, a dedicated thing, and go, someone tried it, it is doable, other games should be doing this. There is problems with its implementation. If you turn off speaker names, it also turns off the emotion tag. You can't just have the emotion tag. I wish that you could have the emotion tag in, like, a different colour or bold or something to make it easier to see at a glance more easily. I would also love it if they took the audio description track for that game does do some of what that Marvel's Avengers clip did of describing things like he looks to the other person, then he looks back with resignation, describing emotions on faces as textual. I would love to see that also included in an emotion subtitles toggle, or as a sort of sub option for that. Without saying anything else about the game, I am really happy to see a big game developer recognize that there is value in giving players an option to make emotions that are unstated textual and clear for people who struggle with them. So that is my one time this year where I will talk about something in a Ubisoft game and say, that thing is good.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Should be done more.
Yes, it should.
Yeah,
For sure.
I'm glad it's there. That's my one I couldn't ignore an accessibility thing they did over the year. Who else has played stuff this week? Who's been playing things?
I've really only played one thing this week.
Same here.
I'll go ahead and start. I finished up Wanderstop.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with how that game turned out.
I have finished it as well, and it came around.
It did. It came around.
There was that third act bit where I wasn't sure where it was going, but I'm glad I trusted to stick it through.
Yeah, and I still feel like maybe, I don't know, I feel like it could have been stronger in some respects where that's concerned still. But at least it's not, like, vague. It does explain in a way that is acceptable.
Mm.
That last character that you deal with hit me so hard in the feels.
Yeah.
Just nailed it.
It's not a 10 out of 10 masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I have kind of, like, you know, sort of pacing issues and things like that also, but yeah.
But I finished it and went, you know what? I don't really care about the problems I had along the way. You ended it on a great note.
Yep.
You landed it very well.
I do think it's interesting how in that like third act of the game, it introduces a lot more potential complexity for brewing that simply, wasn't exploited at any time earlier. And, certainly these were things that I had observed were possibilities. So seeing them come was interesting. It didn't compel me to want to experiment and discover whether or not there was more variance available in terms of content for Alta because of that. And I suspect that there probably isn't that much. But I almost feel like I wish they had explored the complexities of the team making a little bit further.
Yeah, and I do wonder whether part of that is, like, not wanting to for fear that it would conflict with the trying to keep you doing very basic things narrative thing, but there is something almost a little frustrating of, oh, you did have more ideas for this and you sort of held off on what could have been, you could have dug into more.
Yeah. But still, on the whole, very enjoyable experience, satisfied with the conclusion, and yeah, they did a good job with the Wanderstop.
Steph, the only thing you've played this week is a thing I've also played this week. Do you want to get into Xenoblade Chronicles X?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I can't. It's embedded. Laura, anyone who's played that game long enough, and it doesn't take long, gets it stuck. Yeah. Get it out. Feel like it's sounding like a man getting ready to fuck a goose. The soundtrack is infectious, for good or ill. Mostly good. It's got great music. It's got a great soundtrack to Xenoblade Chronicles X. It does. Yeah, I won't go too deep into all the criticisms I've had because I've written all of that in my review draft. I did a video on it on Monday. I am very talked out of discussing that game's complete lack of balance and reliance on ambushes. Impossible ambushes. So the game just helping itself to all of your hit points. As the one trick in its book. The game is very flawed. It's got so many systems and it explains them terribly with a poorly laid out menu. It is fiddly. It makes you do in 5 steps what you could do in 1. However, it is a damn good game. Every system, no matter how poorly explained, is really well made. And it's fun and silly. And I just unlocked the mech after 50 hours. And the mech is fun. It is a good game despite itself. And it trips itself up a lot.
It is, I would argue, the worst of the Xenoblade games. And its definitive edition has done nothing to look at the other games in that series and what they did better and make improvements to fix the glaring issues that exist with the original version. It is unfair and poorly paced and needlessly obtuse in places. But I do still really like it, though.
It's spiteful. Spiteful. It is sometimes I'm playing it and I'm like, God, yeah, it's no wonder some of this team was tapped for Breath of the Wild. Like, Breath of the Wild's more spiteful elements. I guarantee you it was these fucking guys that put it in. Yeah, it's such a dick. So many times.
The problem is, and you put it really well in your video earlier this week, is it's the times where they have static spawns of over-leveled monsters near low-leveled quests, and specifically, because they are fixed spawns, there is no getting around them. They are plonked in place, they don't wander, they don't have behaviour that's exploitable, they just stand sentry-like ready to be a problem.
Yeah. Unlike other members of the species, like, it's there deliberately to fuck you over. I was streaming the game last night at the time of recording, and I couldn't have asked for a better live demonstration of this game's attitude. I had a mission. To get to it, I had to go across this cliff edge. So it was one linear pathway, across which they had dotted so many ambushes. The worst kind of ambush, where the obvious flower is obviously not a flower. And you know it's not a flower because this game is this game, which means you've been ambushed by flowers so many times. And you will be ambushed by this flower many times on this one path. And knowing they're there, the game makes you pretend you can't see it. Because the game has to award itself little victories. So you have to act surprised every time. Because you can't target them. You can't target them until they ambush you. Because that's what the game is about. And at the end of this long corridor of ambushes, you are ambushed. And this is a level 23 quest. You are ambushed by a level 40 monster that I was actually holding my own against for several minutes until it decided I should be dead. And then it just party wiped us. And that was at the end of a long series of ambushes that I engaged with in good faith. I fought them all. And then it went, you know what, fuck you. And I'd already had to fight my way to that cliff edge twice, because the first time, one of my abilities sent me surging forward as its animation, and it threw me off the cliff. For a joke, what I did was I closed the game and started playing Suikoden while I was on stream, and pretended I was still playing Xenoblade Chronicles X. I did that for a little bit, then I went back to Xenoblade Chronicles X. I booted the game back up, I reloaded it. It had auto-saved me. Falling off the cliff to mock me. Conrad and Laura, to mock me.
Yeah.
Such
Pretty
a dick.
good mockery.
Yeah. It's so good, though. It's this game. How often would you ever see me tinkering with multiple builds and working out, like, if I take the weapon from this class and put it on this, I can maximize the synergy with this ability by triggering this, which will trigger this, and make that stronger. Now I just need to accrue the tension points to apply the buff. So let's put that weapon enhancement on that, which will feed in. I never get that deep into it. With this game, I am tinkering around. I had a lovely build where it was based on the Mind Jack ability, where you take control of enemies and you can get an ability that like sucks health and tension points from them, and it costs tension points to do the Brain Jack. So I was paying for it because I'd leveled up that ability enough to where I was paying for both it and the aura that I could trigger that would make my beam barrage, which is the one move I need, as powerful as it can be. I'm playing with a different one at the moment that uses the lightsaber with the beam cannon from the Mastermind build. And there are a lot of beam enhancement abilities with that lightsaber. So class mixing, I'm now into that and having a lot of fun there. The battle system is incredibly rich, I think. And I say this as someone who's never been mega into MMO-style combat with the auto-attacking and stuff. But across the whole Xenoblade series, I'd say there's something about how they do it. And I think they're really good at making synergies work between abilities so that you're actually invested in the cooldowns rather than bored waiting for stuff to occur just to pop them.
They give you enough reasons to be actively thinking about a thing rather than just popping it the second it comes back. Be that, some of the games in the series have your sort of, this will do topple, and if I hit an enemy that's toppled, it'll do stagger, and I can, get bonus effects by doing it that way. Sometimes it's if I do this attack from behind the enemy, it'll do massive extra damage. Sometimes it's, oh, I do that attack and then like a ring starts closing in and I do extra damage if I press it when the rings match. They're really good at like giving you stuff to be doing that isn't just, okay, it lit up, I pressed the button and I stopped thinking the second a light happened. And yeah, it does make it feel juicier than that combat system usually would.
Yeah. The presentation is a big part of it. Like, I can play a lot of these games where your character will just stand there and plonk. And that's what it feels like. Just plink, plonk, plink, and abilities called down. Press that button. Then it's back to plink, plonk. This game makes everything feel fast and frantic. And the music feeds into it because, again, the music is so good. The abilities look so flashy. Every character is, shouting and making things blow up. As with any Xenoblade game, my God, the game does a bit too much of the talking. It never shuts the fuck up, which wouldn't be so bad if there was more variety to what they say. But they have that horrible thing that all these games have, which is not only do they only repeat a handful of things, the things they repeat are lengthy, involved sentences that stand out all the more for the fact that nobody would say that more than twice in an hour. Why are they saying it 15 times? Why are we having dialogue exchanges that repeat? It makes it stand out more, which makes it even more repetitive because I notice it more.
This series has been going for like 20 years at this point, and I still have burned into my brain, it's rhyme time!
Yes!
It's rhyme time!
I've not brought it up as a game to discuss separately this week, but in order to, check and see if the other games were as bad as Chronicles X about the ambushes, which I've not got to the bit in the first one where everyone says it gets really bullshitty, but I did kick up Xenoblade Chronicles, the original, sort of the definitive version of that. And it was within 10 minutes that I wanted them to shut the fuck up.
I similarly went back to a different Xenoblade this week while playing X. I went and played Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And that reminded me, oh god, this series improved a lot. And has made me go, okay, yeah, I'm going to stick with X, but I know that at the end of it, I kind of want to replay 3. 3 was really nice. I liked 3 a lot.
I need to play more of 3. I was honestly put off a lot by the repetitive dialogue, which I may have to switch language options. I hate that that's a thing that I feel like I have to do with games. I don't like doing it. But I don't know if for the rest of my life I could ever hear again, "I'd want something a bit meatier." I don't know if I can hear that EastEnders reject bang on and on about meat.
You've got the alternative, which is go into the settings and turn off just put down the slider for voice lines, so that you're still hearing English cutscenes, but you're not hearing them talk when out on the battlefield.
That's good. Yeah, I may do that.
Yeah.
I didn't get very far into it, and I really should pick it up again, because I like these games a lot. I really like them. I don't remember anything about them when I've done with them. I was startled at how little I remembered Chronicles X. For a game that I do remember enjoying, I just don't remember anything. X is the one I
remember the least of the plot. I know I got far enough to get the mech. Before playing it, my entire memory of X was, I remember that we were running away from Earth and we crashed somewhere and I got out a pod. And that it was all everything wants you killed and there's a big city in the middle and I get a mech at some point.
Yeah.
And that was everything I remembered. That was the whole of it.
How did I forget the antagonist's thong? How did I forget that incredible outfit? The fact that everyone looks like a fetish bar recreation of Jabba's palace.
And it's weird, because I remember 1, 2, and 3's plots, considerably better. X is weirdly forgettable.
It is strange, because it's mechanically forgettable because we all forgot it, but I'm playing it and I'm like, this isn't mediocre. This isn't what I should be forgetting.
In the moment playing it, I would never describe it as forgettable while it's happening, but it clearly is forgettable, and I don't know why.
And the plot is good. The characters are great.
Yeah, like, I care about the setting. It's, like, a place I want to be.
I've genuinely laughed at some of, like, the dialogue exchanges in cutscenes and stuff. Like, not at Tatsu, not at that hairy little ball bag. I fucking hate him. But the characters are so silly. And the main plot is cool. It does one of my favourite things that a plot can do after you first meet the main antagonists. And I guess if you do worry a bit, it's a minor spoiler, because it doesn't happen too far in. But it does one of my favourite things where you meet the Ganglion, who are built up as, like, this huge threat to humanity. They are fucking scary. We think they're, like, this big spacefaring military, all of this. You meet some other characters, like other aliens, who tell you, oh, yeah, they're just a crime syndicate. Like, they are just gangsters. And I love that kind of thing, where humanity's idea of the universe is so small that petty crooks look like the evil empire. And I love that. And it really alters how I view them from that point forward. And it's great. And the characters, like I say, the characters are all memorable. The villains are great fun. I don't know how I forgot so much about it. The outfits, oh my god. I have spent almost as much time doing anything else as I have going into the fashion gear menu and changing my armor so that it looks like the armor that I actually like the look of. And I'm wearing something so ludicrously stripperific at the moment. It's all like tight hot pants going up the butt crack, but with a head that looks like a virus from that old Reboot cartoon. Great stuff. The outfits, the aesthetic. And I always appreciated what a departure it was from all the other Xenoblades. I guess 3 ends up being a sort of meeting point in terms of style and scenario. But compared to Chronicles and Chronicles 2, X is such a departure, and I think it's a fascinating and interesting game. And it's unfair that it's so forgettable. It's the least forgettable game I've ever seen. How have I not remembered this?
Yeah, it's such a weirdly fascinating curio in how I shouldn't like it as much as I do. I shouldn't be able to forget it as much as I do.
Yeah.
I don't understand how it exists in this weird in-between state that it does.
I'd somehow even forgotten that the mechs were Transformers. I forgot they turned into cars.
Yeah.
What the fuck? How has this game managed it? How is it a black hole of memories when it is memorable?
Your guess is as good as mine, honestly.
Oh, well.
Other stuff this week. I've been playing around with some new controllers this week that I have some thoughts on. So sort of surprise release last week, but announced back in the summer last year. The Xbox Adaptive Joystick has been released, it's basically a Wii nunchuck with 4 buttons below the analog stick. So it's half an Xbox controller, but it's a Wii nunchuck.
Oh, so you mean it's the PlayStation Moves navigation controller?
Kinda, basically.
A device that I said was criminally underapplied when it was available. That is the perfect turn-based RPG controller.
Right. So, yeah, this has been released. It's pretty cheap. It is 25 quid, I think, for one of these nunchuck-style controllers, which, considering this is designed for accessibility stuff, it is rare to see something in the accessibility space this cheap and affordable. I will give Xbox credit for that. Hell yeah. There is a trade-off. The trade-off is it is a wired-only controller. So, look, I had conversations with Xbox about this back at Gamescom back in August last year. I was like, 100%, I recognize and commend making the entry price of this as low as possible, making sure that as an accessibility device, there is a version of it available that is as affordable as possible. That being said, I guarantee you there is a lot of people who would want this controller in this form factor, for whom a cable from their Xbox across the room to the controller will put them off using it. And,
no, but as somebody who does almost all of their gaming from their PC, rest assured I will be buying one of these.
Yeah, so, like, I think there's two things that are worth talking about, which is, yeah, if you're at, like, a PC, yeah, that's a non-issue. Second of all, and this is an additional cost, but it is the setup I'm using as someone that already has it, I have the Xbox Adaptive Controller, which is, like, a rectangle with two big buttons on it, and that is wireless. You can plug one of these into the Xbox Adaptive Controller, and now you don't need a cable trailing across your living room to the Xbox. There's a cable plugging it into the adaptive controller on your lap, and that's it. If I had to trail this cable across the living room to my Xbox, I would not be that interested. But as someone that really benefits from split-handed controls and being able to have my hands apart from each other, change my positions and orientation of my hands, two of these plugged into an Xbox Adaptive Controller on my lap, I can't go back. This is my new way to play Xbox games. I fucking love it. This is not the feeling I expected to have with a accessibility controller setup that is designed for my wrists are kind of fucked up and I need help. I felt like a fucking mech pilot. Because I had my two big buttons on my lap, and in each of my hands I had like a joystick with buttons and sticks in my hand. It felt like I was piloting a little mech setup. And that felt cool. And now I can have my hands split apart from each other and also feel a little bit like I'm in a mech control panel. And I can't go back from it. It feels really nice. And this is now how I play Xbox games. I've been using a pair of these with an adaptive controller on my lap for about a week now, and it's great.
It's like you have a minimalist Steel Battalion.
Right, that's what I keep thinking about. I keep thinking about the fucking Steel Battalion setup, and I've got my two big buttons on my lap, which I'm like, look, I can map them to whatever I want, and in a moment of, like, it's time to, I don't know, activate my boost or whatever, slam the big button with my fist, and the thing happens. It feels very good. There's a couple of other places where, like, cost cutting to make this affordable for disabled users, I do think is to its detriment. There is no Xbox button or start or select button on this. So if you are, like, for your setup, Conrad, where you're you know, at your PC, you can just press escape or whatever the equivalent is. Let's say you don't have an Xbox Adaptive Controller and you're trailing a cable from your Xbox to your sofa to use one of these, you know, on console. If you don't have an Xbox Adaptive Controller, you would still need a regular Xbox controller near you to press start and select an Xbox. That's, I think, my biggest criticism, is there is a little Xbox logo above the analog stick. If that had been an Xbox button, and you'd add one more button down the bottom that's like, you know how the Wii Remote had, like, the 1 and 2 button down the bottom? If you'd add, like, one button in that sort of position that could be your start or select, you could have, with a pair of these, had all the functions of an Xbox controller, and I think that's one place where the cost cutting, I don't think, was a good idea. I would love to see them release a slightly more expensive but wireless version of this in future. I think there is a lot of people who, yeah, if they could just have a wireless pair of nunchucks and that's all they need to play Xbox, would fucking love it. The Xbox Adaptive Controller is like an additional cost to get this to where I'm thinking it's really useful. Like, I can see that the setup that's working really well for me only feels good because I already had the thing that made it wireless. It's got problems, but now that I have it here, I can't see myself playing Xbox any other way. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with the Xbox Adaptive joystick.
That's pretty cool.
But, yeah, for your use case, Conrad, yeah, at your PC, yeah, it's just a one-handed 4 buttons, 2 triggers, and an analog stick. Fucking great for just his one hand's worth of controls. The other thing I'll say it's really good for that I've been fucking around with on PC, as someone that's not good with mouse and keyboard controls and doesn't find WASD comfortable, and that, like, I can't do WASD but also be pressing like Q and D and Shift and whatever. In games that allow you to have both doing inputs at once, having movement on analog stick, my buttons on my left hand for my functions, but right hand be like aiming and firing.
Yep.
It's fucking nice.
It's always good.
That's the real fucking killer app function for this, is mouse is good for point and shoot, but everything else I want on a controller. I really think there's a lot of people who would really, really enjoy that setup, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. As someone that doesn't like shooters on PC, this got me over that hurdle.
Yeah, I'm very interested. Very, very interested.
Yeah, for 25 quid, there is a lot of use cases I can see people making use of with it. I do wish there was an alternate version with just like a little less of the cost cutting. But yeah, either of you played anything else this week?
I did start in on the Resident Evil 4 remake, because it was on sale, and Dead Rising Remaster isn't on sale enough for me yet, so I grabbed that. I started playing. I'm enjoying it. My one real thought is, this is the point at which the series conventions regarding knives really becomes an issue. Now having to keep in mind whether or not I'm going to have a knife available to me when I need it to disarm a bear trap is... I'm sure they feel it adds a delicious layer of tension. I'm just annoyed. But
yeah,
otherwise, having fun. And that's all I have to say about it.
Well, in that case, we've got a couple of newsy bits to talk about this week. Did either of you see the trailer this past week for Arc Aquatica?
No, but I did hear about some hubbub around its marketing.
Yeah, so this is an expansion for Ark, and the trailer is real bad AI slop. Like, you know the kind of AI slop where you watch a trailer and it's like, oh, not one of these shots lasts for more than 3 seconds because that's the maximum length of clip the AI program would output. And even then, that 3 seconds doesn't hold up as stable. It was a real one of those. After several days of this trailer being up and people being very critical of it, we finally got a statement about it from lead game designer Matt Cole that basically boiled down to throwing marketing under the bus.
Cool.
The statement was, that trailer was done by our marketing department. They took our assets and ran them through an AI to animate them. That was marketing. He reiterated, the development team did not do that. There has been no AI use in development of Aquatica.
I hope so.
I hope so, but it's...
Also, fire your marketing department.
Yeah.
Because they done fucked up.
Yeah. It... There's footage of the game that people can see. I'm looking at footage of it now and going... Yeah, this looks like a reasonably interesting thing. You could have just shown some of this, and that would be a trailer. You didn't have to get the imagination machine to bullshit out some nonsense. There's some good news in the games industry this week that I was excited to see. A rare instance of companies in the games industry coming together for something that I think is applaudable. During GDC last week, there was a talk that then led into the announcement of an initiative. Basically, EA, Google, Microsoft, Nintendo of America, Ubisoft, PlayStation, Amazon Games, Riot Games, Square Enix, and Warner Brothers have all come together to create something called the Accessible Games Initiative, which is basically a cross-industry initiative to try and create a set of accessibility tags and standards for what those tags should mean and what should be required to achieve them, in order to create like a standard set of things that all of these companies go, we understand that these are accessibility things we should be aiming for in our games as like a standard set of things to aim for. what we should be calling these settings so that people reliably know when they see this wording it means this, and what minimum bar of entry should be hit before you can advertise you're doing one of these 24 features. These are all very basic things, stuff like clear text, large and clear subtitles, narrated menus, save any time. But the thing that is really good about it is that there is developer documentation, and they actively encourage other developers to look at this and make use of it, to go, if you're going to say your game can, quote, save any time, does that mean any time at all during gameplay? Does that mean if you're in a cutscene you can still save? Like, clarity around all of these little details about if you're going to say you support large and clear subtitles, does that include, like, a standardized font? Does it include being above a minimum size or contrast ratio? Basically, if you're on Xbox or PlayStation right now, both of those companies have their own accessibility tagging systems that people can opt into for games. And those, can still go above and beyond what's offered here. But this is like a standardized place that everyone has, like, most of the big AAA publishers have come together and gone, we will agree to, like, try and make these things that we do, and that we are consistent about how we do them in the industry. And that is honestly fucking surprising.
I'll tell you what really surprises me about it. Well, not I'm pleasantly surprised that we're still seeing some fucking investment in this kind of thing.
Honestly, yeah.
Especially, like, post everything going on in America, we've seen a lot of companies drop their flimsy little masks and be like, oh, we don't have to pretend we give a shit about anyone.
Yeah.
And drop various sort of programs and investments in various things that would just make life better for people. And we've seen some of this slowing on accessibility and stuff like that. So it's at least nice that there's still some people giving a shit,
Yeah. And I will say as well, I think it's really exciting, particularly to see Nintendo on this list. They were one of the 5 founding publishers that came together to initially start this. Some of the tags in here are ones that are things people have been critical of Nintendo's games for a long time about, such as one of the tags is playable without motion controls. And that Nintendo is part of an initiative that means that, like, someone at Nintendo agreed that playable without motion controls is an important thing for accessibility that should be considered and that there should be standards around. That is promising. It's also promising in the sense that Nintendo is the only one of the 3 console makers who currently does not have accessibility store tag functionality on their eShop. I'm quietly hoping that them being in this initiative means that we might see that as a feature on the eShop on the Switch too in the coming months.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, for a company like Nintendo, I know I keep singling them out, but I think they make a good example for this. Nintendo is a company that, like, has been really behind the standards of what other companies have been doing the last few years on accessibility. To see them associated with a set of standards that they have said they expect, like, additional standards to be added and, standards to evolve over time in the future. This feels like it's a very basic set of standards, but if Nintendo and companies like them could meet it and stay with it as it slowly rises, that's gonna be, I think, the thing that gets us to a point where, like, most games are doing the basics right. And that's really exciting.
Well, while we're on the subject of things that were announced at GDC that relate to our direct interests,
yes,
there was also an announcement from the Communication Workers of America that they have launched a new United Video Game Workers Union that they're partnered with. This is a cross-disciplinary union that is direct join, meaning that it's not representing the employees of any one specific company. It represents video game workers at large. If you are in art, writing, QA, programming, design, you can join the union. If you've been laid off, if you're not working right now, you can join the union.
The way I believe I saw it put was basically, as long if you're in any role within games as an industry that does not involve hiring and firing people or being in HR, you are eligible.
Right. And so, I mean, this is a different type of union approach. It is one that has its challenges, for sure. When you are casting such a broad net, that means you're going to have some difficult conversations and some difficulty in getting support for certain measures. However, at the same time, that kind of broad agreement among workers, when you can agree on the things that you want, can be extremely powerful in negotiating with the industry as a whole on the things that need changing. They have a website up, and they've listed a set of demands that they're going to be pursuing from employers. These include sustainable growth instead of short-term boom and bust hiring cycles. You mean the thing that has been crippling this industry? God forbid.
Yep.
Advance notice before layoffs, some paid time off following them, better severance pay, health insurance extensions for those laid off workers. It's a lot to sort of help these people that the industry has just fucking discarded and will continue to discard as long as this isn't stopped. If you fix the first thing, the other 4 things I just said become less significant problems. Just putting that out there. And AI is, of course, an issue that they're on about. So it's good stuff. It's hopeful. You go check out the website. We'll have a link in the podcast description. And this is positive news that people are finally coming together and organizing.
Exactly. Like, it's honestly, it's been so nice this last, 2 to 3 years seeing, the ball start and keep rolling with unionization, and it's really nice to see something like this that, obviously, while ambitious and challenging in its own ways to exist, is putting its mark out there and going, the important thing is that we find union solidarity wherever we can find it, and we find the things that we are all struggling with and all fighting for, and we start collecting that power and working out what power we have and where we can apply it. It's reassuring to see this kind of willingness to fight being presented.
Yep.
This is great to see.
It's a huge turnabout from about 5-6 years ago. I remarked on this on Blue Sky the other day. I used to get quite a bit of pushback from a lot of game developers who were in previously assumed to be pretty cushy positions. They felt like they were safe, and they felt like the companies had their backs. And I say that not to do my usual Cassandra routine or point at those people, because I've been there. I've been in a place, in a job, where I was treated well and didn't see where others weren't. Just in terms of, my job's secure, and I just didn't see how other people were, not in as secure a role, who weren't being as fairly compensated. It's easy to think the company has your back when you're the golden one, Yeah. And this is where the smugness comes in, not at those people, but at the companies that could have still had that corporate loyalty, had they just given a little bit back. All of this unionization we're seeing is because of what those companies have done. It's because they gave the workforce no other choice but to organize when there was a lot of anti-union sentiment. A lot of people had bought that company line, but there's been too many stabbed backs. There's been too much betrayal on the side of the company, too many examples that no, they are not your friend, no, they do not have your back, and no, your job is not safe. So to go from feeling like the mainstream part of the industry was largely anti-union to what we're seeing now is really good. Like, I cannot overstate, as someone who had come up against that resistance to the idea, seeing such a larger embrace of it makes me feel better for the people working in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I think that's a nice place to leave this one on. That's a good pause. I'm feeling good about the industry for a second. Hell yeah.
Just quickly, while it lasts, people want to chase up those good feelings, and I know they can do it with your work, Laura. You do so much of it, and it's so good. Where can people find out about it?
Laura K. Buzz. You can find it at Laura K. Buzz. Patreon's the one that pays the bills. As little as $1 a month over there means I can keep doing all this shit. By the time that this goes up, you'll be able to check out the final episode of Abletop, the 6-part series talking about board game accessibility I've been doing with Carrie Waterton. That'll be up on YouTube. All 6 episodes are up now. Go check it out. We're super proud of that series. Things to look forward to. I'm working on a very silly video for early next week, and I'm going to tease it a little bit here. I've been trying to... In the run-up to the Switch 2 Direct next week, I have been trying to put together as many officially released Nintendo Switch 2 accessories together as possible, with the purpose of seeing how much I can assemble of a Switch 2 before the thing releases. It's a very silly video. Look forward to that, hopefully Tuesday next week. It's a bit ridiculous. What about you, Conrad? Where are you out on the internet?
Oh, you can find me at Conrad Zimmerman on Blue Sky. You can hang out with me on Twitch at twitch.tv/thatconradzimmerman, where I stream on Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays at different times. You can buy anti-capitalist propaganda and Jimquisition merchandise at mercenarycreative.com, and everything I do online gets supported through Patreon at patreon.com/fistshark. And you know who else has a Patreon? Stephanie Sterling.
That is correct. Patreon.com/Jimquisition, which supports this show and the web series and reviews on thejimquisition.com. I also stream at Twitch TV/JimSterling, and you can find me on Blue Sky as Commander Sterling. I'm also on Instagram as Commander Sterling as well. We'll have wrestling news up in April, and keep an eye out for Quantum Witch and Date Everything, 2 games out this summer that I've worked on. Very excited about that. And in the meantime, we will be back next week. Thank you so much for all of your support. We'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.